My father stood at the head of the Christmas table. 65 years old. Silver hair. The kind of man who fills a room just by walking into it. He raised his glass. We do this every year. The Christmas toast. Mom on his right, my older brother Marcus and his wife Lindsay on his left, me and my wife Alicia at the end. We had been at the end of that table for as long as I could remember. Dad said, "This year has been hard on Marcus's business. I want us to come together as a family." He looked at my brother. "The dealership needs $200,000, and I know we can find it, because that's what family does." He set his glass down, and he looked at me, not Marcus, me. And I understood. He had not said "we" to mean everyone. He had said "we" to mean me. What my father did not know, what nobody at that table knew, was that 3 days earlier, on a Wednesday morning, I had signed a contract worth $3.2 million. And that was not even our biggest quarter. Welcome to Virtue Line, where invisible suns stop being invisible. Let's go back to the beginning. My name is Nathan Cole, 38 years old. I run a logistics software company out of Houston, Texas. I started it at 29 in a spare bedroom with one client, one laptop, and the specific kind of determination that only comes from spending your whole life being the afterthought. My father is Gerald Cole, semi-retired, former auto dealership owner. The kind of man who judges success by what he can see and touch and show people. My mother, Patricia, is warm and conflict avoidant in the specific way that allows comfortable silence to swallow a lot of truth. And then there is Marcus, my older brother, 41 years old. Marcus got the smile, the handshake, the easy confidence of a man who has never had to doubt whether he is loved. Growing up, Marcus was the plan. He was going to take over Dad's dealership, then expand it, then build the Cole name into something the city would recognize. That was the plan. And for 20 years, Dad funded that plan the way some men fund a religion. If you grew up in a family where one sibling was the investment and you were the overhead, drop that in the comments, because I need to know how many of us there are. The numbers, because I am a numbers man, were not small. $340,000 over 10 years into Marcus's dealership, new inventory loans, operating capital, a showroom renovation in 2019 that Dad called an investment in the future. I know the exact number because I am the one who found the bank statements when I helped Mom reorganize the filing cabinet 3 years ago. I said nothing. Auditors learn to hold information until it matters. When I started my company at 29, my father called it a computer thing. Not dismissively, just incompletely. The way you describe something you have decided not to understand. Nathan does something with computers, he would say at family dinners. Software, I would say. Right, software. Then he would turn back to Marcus and ask about the dealership. I want to be fair about this. My father was not a cruel man. He simply had a map of the world drawn before I was born. And on that map, real business meant a building you could drive past, a sign with your name on it, inventory you could put your hands on. Software lived nowhere on that map. So neither did I. What nobody in my family knew and what I had made a deliberate decision not to tell them was what I had actually built. Cole Digital Solutions started in a spare bedroom. By year 3, 6 employees and contracts with 4 regional logistics companies. By year 5, 22 employees. By year 7, the year of that Christmas dinner, we had 41 employees, offices on 2 floors of a building in Midtown Houston, and annual revenue of $8.3 million. $8.3 million. And my father believed I did something with computers. My wife Alicia knew. She had been there for every year of it. The lean months. The first big contract. The morning I called her from the office parking lot because I could not stop shaking after we closed our first $1 million deal. She was the only one. Because I had made a choice, early, to keep my family at arm's length from what I was building. Not out of spite, out of self-preservation. The day my father calls your work a computer thing in front of company, you learn to build in private. The Wednesday before that Christmas, 3 days before the dinner, I sat in our conference room and signed a $3.2 million contract with a regional freight company that had been courting us for 8 months. James Park, my business attorney, was across the table. He said, "Congratulations, Nathan. Best quarter you've had." I said, "Don't jinx it." He laughed. I drove home that evening, picked up Tyler, my 7-year-old, from my mother-in-law's, brought home pizza, told Alicia about the contract. She hugged me in the kitchen for a long time. Then she said, "Are you going to tell your dad?" I thought about it. "After the holidays," I said. She nodded. The specific nod of a woman who has watched you protect yourself for 9 years and knows better than to push. 3 days later, the Christmas table, the toast. The dealership needs $200,000, and my father's eyes landing on me. After dinner, Dad pulled me aside. The den. His chair. The specific geography of a conversation he had prepared. "You know Marcus is struggling," he said. "I heard your toast," I said. "The dealership has real problems. He took on debt in 2021. The market shifted. He needs capital to restructure." I said, "What does that have to do with me?" Dad looked at me. Patient. The way men look when they believe the other person just needs a moment to catch up. "You're doing well with your computer work. You don't have the overhead Marcus does. No inventory, no showroom. I figured you'd have something set aside." I sat with that for a moment. "Dad, you're asking me to give Marcus $200,000. "Lend," he said quickly. "Family loan." "Has Marcus ever paid back a family loan?" I asked. Silence. "He's your brother," Dad said. "I know who he is," I said. The did not say yes that night. I said I needed to think about it. Dad nodded, squeezed my shoulder. "Good man," he said, as if the answer was already decided and my thinking was just a formality. 2 days later, my cousin Darnell called me. We had been close growing up, the kind of close that only cousins who survived the same family gatherings can be. He said, "Nathan, I need to tell you something, and I need you to not be mad at me for knowing this and not saying it sooner." I said, "Tell me." He said, "Your dad has been telling the whole family that Marcus is the businessman." I said, "I know that." "No," Darnell said. "I mean specifically. At Uncle Gerald's retirement party last spring, he gave a speech. He talked about Marcus building the Cole legacy. He said, and I'm quoting, "Marcus is the one who understood what real work looks like." I said nothing. He didn't mention you at all, Nathan. Not once. I looked at the wall of my office. 41 employees, 2 floors, $8.3 million. Not once. Alicia found me in the kitchen that night. I told her what Darnell said. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Nathan, I think it's time." "Time for what?" I asked. "To show them. Not for revenge, not to prove anything, just so they know. So they have to know." I thought about it. "Not yet," I said. She looked at me. "Why?" I picked up my coffee. "Because right now, they're asking me for $200,000. If I show them what I have, they'll think that's why I said yes." She nodded slowly. "So you're going to say no first?" "I'm going to say no first," I said. "And then show them." Marcus showed up at my house on a Saturday morning, without calling, which is the kind of thing you only do when you believe someone owes you access. Tyler answered the door, my 7-year-old, and yelled, "Dad, Uncle Marcus is here!" I came to the door. Marcus looked not the way I expected, not desperate, entitled. The specific posture of a man who believes he is asking not for a favor, but for what is owed. We sat in the living room. He said, "Dad said you were thinking about it." "I am," I said. "I need an answer, Nathan. The bank isn't patient." I said, "Marcus, walk me through the numbers. What exactly happened to the dealership?" He shifted. "The market got tough." "What specifically?" "Inventory costs, supply chain, you know." I waited. "Marcus," I said carefully, "how much total has Dad put into the dealership?" He looked at me. "What does that matter?" "I'm trying to understand the full picture." He rubbed the back of his neck. "Dad has been supportive over the years. $340,000 over 10 years, I said. His face changed. "How do you know that?" "I helped Mom with the filing cabinet." Silence. Then he did something I had not expected. He leaned forward and he said, "Dad paid for your college, Nathan. He co-signed your first apartment. He helped you get started. You owe this family." I looked at my brother. "Dad paid $32,000 for my education. In the decade since, I had generated enough tax revenue from my company to fund 30 educations. But Marcus did not know that. And that was still not the moment." My phone rang while Marcus was still there. I looked at the screen. James Park, my attorney. "I need to take this," I said. I stepped into the kitchen. James said, "Nathan, the Houston Business Journal wants to run a feature on Cole Digital, fastest growing logistics tech firm in the Gulf Coast region. They want a cover." I looked around the kitchen doorframe. Marcus was sitting on my couch, looking at his phone. My brother, 41 years old, the businessman in the family. "Tell them yes," I said quietly. I hung up and came back to the living room. Marcus said, "Everything okay?" "Fine," I said. "Just a business call." He nodded. "So, the 200,000? "No," I said. His face went still. No? No, I said again. I'm not going to give you $200,000, Marcus. Not a loan, not a gift. I'm not going to do it. He stood up. Dad is not going to be happy. Probably not, I said. Dad called that evening. He was not warm. Marcus told me you said no. I did, I said. Nathan. His voice had the weight of 40 years of being the authority in a room. Family comes first. That is not a suggestion. That is how I raised you. I said, did you raise Marcus with the same lesson? Because the dealership seems to suggest he understood family to mean that family pays for his decisions. Silence. Then Dad said something I have thought about every day since. If you can't support your brother, then I don't know who you are. I held the phone. Dad, I said carefully, I think the problem is you don't know who I am. What does that mean? It means I want to show you something. I want you and Mom and Marcus to come to my office next Saturday. He paused. Your office? The way he said it told me everything. He thought he was coming to see a room with a desk and a computer. Next Saturday, I said. Bring whoever you want. 3 days before Saturday, I was going through files at home, looking for a contract from 2018 that James needed for reference. In the back of the filing drawer, a birthday card. Plain white envelope. My name in my mother's handwriting. From my 21st birthday. I had kept it for 17 years and had not thought about it in at least 10. I opened it. Inside, a card. And tucked behind the card, a note. On my father's stationery, in his handwriting. I want to read you exactly what it said. Nathan, happy birthday. Work hard at whatever you do. Marcus is going to carry the Cole name forward. Your job is to support that. Family first, always. Dad. I sat on the floor of my home office for a long time. My company had 41 employees, $8.3 million in revenue, a cover story coming in the Houston Business Journal. And the last written word my father had ever addressed to me was a reminder that my brother was the important one. I put the card in my jacket pocket. I was going to need it Saturday. Saturday arrived. Dad, Mom, Marcus, Lindsay. I had told them 10 a.m. I was there at 8. I had asked Sandra, our office manager, to make sure the lobby looked like itself. No staging, no cleanup beyond normal Friday closing, just what it actually was. They pulled up at 10 exactly. Marcus got out of the car first, looked up at the building, looked at the sign above the lobby doors. Cole Digital Solutions, Suite 400 to 500. He said nothing. I met them at the entrance. I watched my father's face as we walked through the lobby. The receptionist, the meeting pods, the development team behind glass on the left, the project floor on the right. 41 people, working on a Saturday because we had a product launch in 2 weeks. We sat in the main conference room. Floor-to-ceiling windows, Midtown Houston below us. Mom sat very still, the kind of still that means something is reorganizing behind the eyes. Dad sat at the table with his hands folded, the posture of a man who has not yet decided what he is seeing. Marcus looked out the window. I set a folder on the table. I want to show you something, I said. I opened the folder. 7 years of company financials. Year 1, $340,000 in revenue. Year 2, $890,000. Year 3, $2.1 million. Year 4, $3.8 million. Year 5, $5.4 million. Year 6, $7.1 million. Year 7, this year, $8.3 million. I slid the page toward my father. He looked at it for a long time. He did not speak. Marcus said, "Why didn't you tell us?" I looked at him. "Would it have changed anything?" I asked. He opened his mouth, closed it. "Would Dad have called it a computer thing at the dinner table?" I said. "Would he have still given his retirement party speech about you carrying the Cole name without mentioning me?" Dad looked up. "You heard about that?" "I heard," I said. "Nathan, I'm not finished," I said. I slid a second page across the table. It was a proposal, my company letterhead, dated 4 years ago. 4 years ago, I said, I put together an investment proposal, a chance for family to buy equity in Cole Digital Solutions at a valuation of $3 million. I paused. "Dad, I sent it to you. I asked if you wanted in. I told you I was building something real and I wanted family to be part of it." Dad's face changed. "I remember that email," he said quietly. "What did you say?" I asked. Long silence. "I said I needed to focus on Marcus's expansion." I nodded. At $3 million valuation, a 10% stake would have cost $30,000. I let that sit. "Today," I said, "that 10% would be worth $830,000. The room was very quiet. Mom had her hand over her mouth. Marcus was looking at the table. Lindsay, his wife, was looking at Marcus in a way that told me this was not the first time she had wondered about something. I reached into my jacket pocket, put the birthday card on the table. "This is from my 21st birthday," I said. I slid it to my father. He picked it up, opened it, read the note inside. He set it down, and I watched something happen in my father's face that I had never seen in 65 years. Not anger, not defensiveness. Reckoning. Dad said, "Nathan, And then he stopped, because my mother spoke. And what she said was the second most surprising thing I heard that day. She said, "Gerald, I need to say something." Dad looked at her. She said, "I saw an article 2 years ago, Houston Business Journal online, a list of fastest growing companies in the region." She looked at me. Nathan's company was number 7. Silence. "I didn't say anything," she said. "I didn't know how. I thought you'd bring it up when you were ready." She reached across and put her hand on mine. "I'm sorry I waited," she said. And there it was. My mother had known for 2 years and had stayed quiet the way women in families like ours learn to stay quiet, to keep the peace, to let the story be what the men decided it was. Marcus stood up, walked to the window, looked out at Houston. For a long time he said nothing. Then he turned around. "So what is this?" he said. "You brought us here to embarrass me?" "I brought you here so you would know the truth," I said. "The truth," he repeated. "The truth is, you've been sitting on $8 million while Dad and I were struggling, and you said nothing." I looked at him carefully. The truth is, Dad put $340,000 into your business while I built mine from zero. The truth is, I offered family a chance to invest 4 years ago and was told to focus on Marcus's expansion. The truth is, you showed up to my house on a Saturday morning without calling and told me I owed you money. Marcus said nothing. I'm not here to embarrass you, I said. I'm here because I'm done being invisible in this family. I set one more document on the table. I have a proposal, I said. Cole Digital is expanding our operations division next quarter. I need a director of client relations, someone who understands relationship-based sales. Automotive industry experience would actually be useful. I looked at Marcus. The salary is competitive, full benefits, profit sharing after year 2. You're offering me a job, Marcus said flatly. I'm offering you a real position in a real company, I said. Not a bailout, not a loan, a salary you earn. He stared at me. I don't need your charity, he said. It's not charity, I said. It's an opportunity. The same kind Dad gave you, except this one comes with accountability. Marcus picked up his jacket. I need some air, he said. He walked out. Lindsay watched him go, then looked at me and said very quietly, I'll talk to him. After Marcus left, it was just me, Dad, and Mom. Dad was still looking at the birthday card. He said, I wrote that. I know, I said. I meant it to be. He stopped, started again. I wanted you to know what the family needed. I wasn't trying to say you didn't matter. I said, what were you trying to say? He set the card down, and my father, 65 years old, silver-haired, the man who filled every room he had ever walked into, looked at me and said, I think I was scared. I waited. Marcus was so sure of himself, the dealership, the plan. He reminded me of myself at his age. I understood him. I knew how to help him. He looked at his hands. You were always different, quiet, building things I couldn't see. I didn't know how to be useful to you, and I think I chose the son I could follow over the son who didn't need me to. My father cried. I want to say that plainly because it matters. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just eyes that filled and a jaw that worked hard to hold something back and couldn't. I missed it, he said. I missed watching you build this. I sat with that. Because here is the thing about being the invisible son. You spend so long waiting to be seen that when it finally happens, you don't know what to do with the space it leaves. I walked around the table, and I sat next to my father, not to comfort him, not to punish him, just to sit next to him, the way sons do when there is nothing left to prove and nothing left to hide. Here is the full accounting. You have stayed this long, you deserve the real numbers. The dealership closed 14 months after that Saturday. Marcus lost the showroom. The inventory was sold at auction. $340,000, plus 10 years, plus my father's retirement party speech, came down to an auction on a Tuesday in March. Marcus did not take my job offer that day. He was too proud, which I understood. He took it 18 months later. He called me on a Sunday evening. No preamble, no apology speech. He said, "Is the position still open?" I said, There's an interview process. He said, fair. He came in on a Thursday, sat across from my HR director, did the interview. She told me afterward, he's actually very good with client relationships. I said, I know. He started the following Monday. He has been here 2 years. He is good at the job. He earns it. Every week. That part matters to me more than I expected it to. Houston Business Journal cover ran the month after that Saturday. My father bought 12 copies. He put one in a frame. It hangs in his living room next to a photo of Marcus at the old dealership ribbon cutting. Both of his sons on the same wall. It took him 65 years and a conference room in Midtown Houston to get there. I'm choosing to let that be enough. The last thing I'll tell you, the thing that made me understand why all of this mattered, happened on a Sunday about 3 months after Marcus started. Tyler, my son, was 7 at the time. We were all at my parents' house for dinner. First time in a long time that everyone was in the same room without something broken between us. Tyler was sitting with Marcus on the back porch. I could see them through the window, and I heard Tyler say, the way 7-year-olds say things with no sense of the weight of them, "Uncle Marcus, how come you work for my daddy now?" Marcus was quiet for a second. Then he said, "Because your daddy built something real, buddy. And it takes a smart man to know when to stop building the wrong thing and go help someone build the right one." Tyler thought about that. Is Daddy's thing the right thing? Marcus said, "Yeah, it always was." I spent 38 years being the afterthought. The one who did something with computers. The one the card reminded to support his brother. The one not mentioned at the retirement party. Here is what I know now. Invisibility is not the same as absence. I was building the whole time. They just couldn't see the blueprint. And here is what I know about fathers and sons. My dad was not a villain. He was a man who understood one kind of success and raised 2 sons without realizing one of them had invented a new kind. Understanding that did not erase the birthday card, but it made room for the frame on the wall. The day Tyler was born, I held him in the hospital and I made one quiet decision. I was never going to make him prove his worth before I acknowledged it. I was never going to write a note telling him his job was to support someone else. Whatever he builds, computer things, buildings, music, silence, I will call it by its real name. That's my story. One Christmas toast, one conference room, one card I kept for 17 years, and a name that finally got said out loud in the right room. If you were the invisible one in your family, the one building something nobody could see, drop a comment and tell me what you were building. Share this with the son or daughter who keeps showing up quietly while someone else gets the speech. Like if you stayed to the end. Subscribe to Virtue Line, because invisible men, we built everything you're standing on. See you in the next one.